Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here I am, John Sneisen, and as this article from BNN says, federal deficit at $5.9 billion halfway through fiscal year, and this is absolutely insane. The debt in Canada is unsustainable. We've done countless reports on it, but John, with this new announcement, where do you think this is going to lead, and what does it mean?
Well, we even wrote a book about it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that just tells you how bad it is. Now, in my book, I have chapter 9. It's called The Canadian Debt Addiction. And this is what's coming so apparent now with the OECD putting out the consumer credit report showing that the consumer credit to GDP in Canada is now 100%. So it's as much as the total GDP in just the consumer credit. Now, I also look at private debt to GDP, which is all the private accumulation through businesses and every other aspect of debt that the private sector accumulates. And that one is 260 something percent, which is just insane. That's the December 2016 number. We haven't gotten to the, they're gonna very soon show us the 2017 number, and just a little idea, I think that number is going to be substantially higher as we are moving up. We're just ahead of South Korea in consumer credit right now. Consumer credit is, of course, credit cards and all that fun stuff with the debt that people accumulates into consumer goods, which is one of the worst credits you can have because it's the highest credit of them all.
Well, what accumulates that debt in the first place?
Well, in the first place, what accumulates it is that people are getting taxed too much. In order to be able to spend the same amount as they did before, they usually go out and then spend more money into the economy through having to go through taxation because their wages have been kind of stagnated. Meanwhile, taxation has actually gone up here in Canada. Several places there's more and more accumulation now with the liberal government with Trudeau and Merneau and all the fun buddies at the Parliament there. Constantly putting forward new little fees, new little tax laws.
I think we should just call it what it is. It's theft, it's extortion, and it hurts poor people the most. It destroys the middle class, and it stops rich people from being able to grow their business and bring in more employees and pay them more. From all angles, it's going to be destructive, and Canada is so vastly taxed from the business taxes, property taxes, income taxes, of course, sales taxes, GST, PST, MST in a lot of places, carbon taxes. We could just go on and on all day, John. There are so many taxes in Canada, and this is just going to be epic when it all comes down, and it's going to come down eventually. Yeah. We see that in the markets and the monetary system both. We see that in localized housing markets across Canada. This is huge.
Yeah, it's scary, and what's happening is, of course, it's not just the debt that they accumulate, the consumer goods here. You got to remember that we talked about the housing market, and especially in Vancouver and Toronto. We talked about the bond bubble with the government debt accumulation, which is completely unsustainable, which is all about the deficit. A government even running a deficit is borrowing money without the consent of the taxpayer, because we initially would be the ones having to pay that off by them extorting us for our money. So it's a terrible place that we've gotten ourselves into, and we're not going to be able to get up, because in 2008, when most of the world deleveraged a bit and defaulted on a lot of these massive debt accumulation, Canada just kept on going straight up, and people in Canada felt like, oh, we're doing something really good here. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's the hidden growth in the economy is this mass amount of debt accumulation, which is so unsustainable when you have a debt when the debt accumulates faster than the growth itself, which is very dangerous. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I want to make sure to mention Canada, the greatest economy in the world, up on Amazon.com. But, I mean, we recently debunked a whole bunch of stuff regarding the Canadian economy because, on the mainstream news, you wouldn't know there's any problem because it's all fine and dandy, according to them. The employment rate is up, they say. Well, they don't pay any attention to the labor force participation rate, which we went into, and how they define employed in Canada, which I think
it's the same. It came from the States, really. They were the first ones to implement it, where they took away a lot of the workforce in order to make their number look so much greater
Yeah.
as because the unemployment number goes down, and that's what Yellen was looking at in order to see if the economy was safe. Oh yeah, it's getting better and better, but the thing is, as it gets better, that number, it's because more and more people are leaving the workforce by having been unemployed for more than 60 days.
Yeah.
Canada is in for just a terrible crash landing here with all this debt accumulation. And as I've said, they claim that Canada was the greatest economy in the world, and I put out the warning signs, and we've seen it. It's just dangerous, and people need to understand what's going on. And I say, buy my book, share it with everybody, because everybody needs. Maybe the people that are viewing our videos, a lot of you guys are good people. You understand how money and investing works because you watch people like us and others.
Or you want to know.
Yeah, or you want to know. But the problem is the general public is not aware, and the general public needs to know what's going on.
Or else they'll be victimized and taken advantage of, like everyone in a society where the government heavily depends, and the banking system heavily depends on debt of the populace because it creates subservience. And of course, as I always say, if you shove someone down a bottomless pit of debt, they're forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, which puts them in perfect servitude exactly where they want you folks. And it's just so important to talk about, and like going into the monetary system, the fact that it's not Trudeau that's doing it. Trudeau is an idiot, and a very useful idiot. But it's what you call the deep state, and that deep state is entrenched in the central banking system and government worldwide, very globalist, and it's an entity that uses a collective will to enforce slavery on the populace. And when you look at the monetary system, they print fiat, paper currency, out of thin air, creating debt, devaluing the dollar, the Canadian dollar.
The inflation tax.
And the hidden tax of inflation, it drives the price of living way up at a disproportionate rate to the wages, which are already really ridiculous because the government imposed them in the first place and created all these problems. Anyway, the point is, all fiat currencies eventually revert to their intrinsic values of zeros, always will. They always have. That looked weird the way you did that. That's going to be screenshot and put on the internet somewhere.
That's for
it's a conspiracy.
Conspiracy, yeah.
But it's just so insane, folks, and people don't understand what money is and don't understand how they're being used with that plastic monopoly money that they have in their wallets, and it's being used.
Is it the petrodollar that we really have? The Americans don't really have it because they're paper money. We actually are petrodollar.
Made out of oil, yeah, absolutely. Well, the ink on the American dollars is made out of oil.
That's
basically true. Everything's made out of oil. But I think this is just so important to get across because there's debt from all levels. There's debt in the markets. I mean, they thrive on debt. It's just manipulation, debt manipulation, derivatives, etc. Then there's the banking system, which you see in the markets and within the monetary system with the creation of currency, etc.
Yeah. I think we're in that level where people are just not gonna. They believe that I'm never gonna pay back that debt. I might as well accumulate as much as I can. And people think that this is just gonna be a ride until it collapses, and then. I can see people just willing to just mass accumulate debt because they're going to say, it's going to collapse, and then that debt is going to be gone.
Well, I just find it funny because people think that this whole system is going to change with a new boss, with a new leader, if you're into that whole kind of thing. And it's unfortunate because no matter who's a prime minister or who's a president of the United States, etc., it's always going to be the same system. It's just a different talking head in place. And it won't make a difference. Trudeau is an idiot. You know that I've confronted him several times here at WHAM because he's a terrible person. He's a globalist stooge, but it has nothing to do with the monetary system. It has nothing to do with the market manipulation. Do you honestly think that such an idiot would know how to take advantage of people in such a way? He's an idiot that goes out and talks on the news and stuff and doesn't even make any sense, just says
plays with unicorns.
Yeah, exactly. It's just ridiculous. And the real powers that be, I guess you could say, are still working behind the scene, no matter who the prime minister is.
Well, the deep state is all the government employees that have been employed for 30, 40 years in the government. That is the real deep state.
And in the security services, in the banking system, in the central banking system especially.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's who we don't understand that's there. They are wanting their job to be there, so they are going to continue to do the same thing over and over again to keep the status quo going. Meanwhile, you have these politicians, these fake people coming in and saying, "Oh, a real change with Trudeau," and whoever comes in, mostly they have no clue what's going on in the real system, which is the system that's outside of the political system, the real world system that is running us into ruin with the fiat
the empire,
Canadian
the
dollar.
cartel.
Yeah.
And it's important to mention, I mean, it's just like the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat. And just people seem to think that everything's okay, and they sit there apathetically allowing all this stuff to happen, to be taken advantage of. And it's very similar to being a cow on a farm getting ready for the slaughter, but you think everything's all right because it's a bright and shiny and sunny day and you're eating grass, you got grass to eat, right? Everything's fine, you're free, until they lead you off to the slaughter and you go wandering over there with a big smile on your face. This is important because people are being taken advantage of, and it's not right. And people are going to see vast amounts of poverty and debt in the coming years like the world has never seen before.
Yeah, it's the hockey stick moment that Al Gore thought that we had in the global warming issue, but this is the actual real hockey stick moment with when global debt is accumulating so fast that it's just looking at. And if you go and take a look at what's called the M0, M1, M2, M3, the money supply of the Canadian dollar, and you go to the historical scale, you will see that hockey stick very apparent there, and just showing how bad it's become. And it's not going to change. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and there's going to take more and more and more debt in order to keep this system afloat until it just automatically implodes. When there's no more people in a sector to in debt, that's when it collapses. Like in the United States, they had to go after the people that didn't have money to indebt them, which they knew that never going to pay back that money, but they had to indebt them in order to keep the system going. But it was unsustainable, and it failed miserably.
Absolutely. There's so much more to talk about, but of course, I mean, people have been complaining a lot lately because our videos have been going too long, mostly because we're passionate about it, and there's so much to talk about always. But John, do you have any more stats, and is there a bottom line that you want to talk about?
There's really no more stats. I got hundreds of stats in my book here that confirms a lot of this that they're starting to talk about now in the news. So I suggest if you want to know more about the stats about the Canadian economy, go and pick up my book at Amazon or buy the ebook. Share with your family, make them wear it. It's a great Christmas gift. So I'm actually looking at creating a Christmas special very soon. So I'm gonna start running that right away. So stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, there's no more stats really to talk about. It just shows you how the continuous growth of this debt is just the death of the Canadian monetary system that we're on the verge of.
Absolutely. And on the verge of it is on our doorstep. In fact, it's already creeping into our houses, and we could see that, and it's clear as day, and we need to be prepared. Better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So as always, the solutions are food, water, shelter, defense. So you're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block, which I know is difficult in Canada because of the laws, but there are ways around that
yourself.
Legally. Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, there's gold, silver, assets, Bitcoin, that which is decentralized. Very important, folks. Diversify and get out of the system. This is our opinions. This is not sound advice because you need a crazy Keynesian degree in order to be able to legally do that.
Not even crazy Keynesian. You just need to be a salesperson.
You have to be Paul Krugman, basically. So let's just make all that clear for folks because people want solutions, right? It's one thing to hear about the problems, but first we have to hear about the problems in order to understand the problem, in order to solve the problem, in order to be the change we wish to see in the world. And that's so important because we can't continue waiting for some government official to do it for us because they won't. We're just going to be waiting forever. We're going to be a skeleton by the time.
Yeah, it's a dead-end road.
Yeah, absolutely. Collectivism begets more collectivism, folks. So until next time, thanks for watching, everyone. And this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth.
Be the change.
Like what you see here at WHAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so overwhelmingly demonetized and censored by YouTube as the Anti-Defamation League comes in and flags all of our content as hate speech. You can also find me at Josh Sigurdson at steemit.com. That's steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post via Steem, the cryptocurrency. You can also find our Bitcoin address in the description and the comments below, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And don't forget to come on down to Anarchapulco in Acapulco, Mexico in February, one of the best events of the year, and you can save money on your tickets by typing in promo code WAM. That's WAM. We'll leave the link below for you, and until next time, don't forget to subscribe. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.